Fundit
TV,
your source for innovation,
expertise,
global intelligence, and all things crowdfunding.
crowd power. Crowdfunding is uniting contributors and project creators all over the globe. Let's hear what's happening from our global experts.
First of all, when we are talking about crowdfunding, there are different types of crowdfunding. We can talk about rewards crowdfunding, donation crowdfunding, lending crowdfunding, or equity crowdfunding. So what I definitely expect to see much more impact of equity crowdfunding. And right now we have huge developments in lending crowdfunding. So peer-to-peer and peer-to-business. I think we would see more developments in these two groups than in Kickstarter, which is usually when people think about crowdfunding, they automatically think about Kickstarter. Regarding Kickstarter, it looks like they are getting more and more aggressive internationally. So I would say that I see more developments overseas than in the United States. Also, from my experience, we see more and more interest from professional investors, like angel investors, venture groups, and startup incubators. So I think we are going to see more and more coalitions between these groups and crowdfunding. Because right now, I would say almost 30% of my clients, when they contact me, they say, it's not because we want to go on Kickstarter, but we have investors who said, we are not going to invest in your company unless we see how you do on Kickstarter. I think, again, it's going to be more global. Right now, we see 63% of Kickstarter backers coming from the United States. I believe it's going to change.
It's just starting out. I think of it as sort of when the Western United States was first settled and you had just these little outposts with little shanty towns and so forth. That's sort of what the crowdfunding market is like today. You have a limited number of crowdfunding portals, which I would refer to as stores. These are the places where an issuer is going to sell its securities to investors. And there just aren't that many of them yet, and they don't serve that many markets. So, you know, in the brick and mortar world, go to the mall and we have a store for everything. We have 17 different stores in the mall for women's clothing and 16 jewelry stores and on and on and on, a great variety. In the crowdfunding world, out in these Western towns, we have a handful of really good real estate stores. So if you're an issuer in the real estate business, you may well be able to find a store that will sell your wares. However, even there, you're probably not going to raise more than a couple $1 million for a given project. So in the scheme of things, that's great, but those are small stores. If you're an issuer trying to sell something in a non-real estate market, now in many, many industries, there just aren't any stores yet. So, you know, there's a consumer products store called Circle Up, and there's some high-tech stores. If you're a high-tech company, there's Funders Club and there's Angel List.
Various types of offerings that you can do that have been permitted by the Jobs Act and the development of technology over recent years. So the things that have been called accredited crowdfunding, so-called Title II crowdfunding, offering to accredited investors only, which is now dozens, actually, more than 100 crowdfunding platforms offering real estate opportunities, and then a few score to offering opportunities in early stage companies. And then also true crowdfunding when it eventually happens, when the SEC finally releases the final version of the rules. And in the meantime, Regulation A, which is being used for crowdfunding, even though it was not originally designed that way. I mean, this is the great thing about these markets. We take what we have and then we make it work. So CrowdCheck provides compliance and disclosure, due diligence services to make sure that the companies who are offering are legit. And we've expanded over the years, so we'll help you put together the disclosure.
Gate Global Impact, we really set out on a mission to create an infrastructure for global participants to find opportunities that are for profit, that are delivering some level of societal, environmental, or cause-related good, and have that centralized location not only to find those deals or opportunities, but to have information and data on it. And then the flip side of that is to be able to measure in a quantifiable way the results and create metrics so that we can go beyond telling someone you should feel good about this investment because X, here's how much clean water was delivered as a result of this, how much carbon reduction was done, how much job creation. And I think particularly when we engage with our millennial investors who are now looking for what we'd say is the new rate of return, the combination of our traditional financial rate of return, but what level of good am I doing alongside my investment? And we clearly see the market moving that way, and we think that's going to be standardization of the way we invest in 3 to 5 years. It's about the education, it's awareness, it's investor suitability. Goes back to our premise that we think this is a regulated marketplace and should be. So when you know an investor's profile, what their suitability requirements are, this long-term, more speculative nature of investment is not for every investor, but it's the right one for certain investors who can tolerate that risk in a longer time horizon. What we also think we're seeing now is seasoned product that come from some of those government agencies that have been investing for years that are now have a level of demonstration of return that they're now up and running, and it's creating exits and what we'd say is the secondary liquidity of those projects. So I think there's a wealth of product that is yet to come to the market that's sitting on the shelves of various government organizations that have taken that big risk early on. Long term, we're very, very bullish as we think the intersection of social media, Web 3.0 is really going to be a disruptive, dynamic force to financial services in general. When you look at the peer-to-peer lending paradigm in itself, right? I think that's a demonstration of the marketplace sending a distinct message. And I think the traction and whether it's Lending Club, Prosper, going down the list of very successful, innovative organizations who've picked up tremendous volumes and activity in the past 12 or 18 months, I think that's going to continue. And I think when you start to see that the banks are paying attention to this now, that early innovative technology plays can be disruptive and garner very rapid market share. It's a wake-up call for banks, for the financial service industry in general. So I think the debt side of this distribution model has a long way to run and grow. And the fact that you can point and click and find an opportunity that tugs at your heart or something that is near and dear to you for geography or family heritage is something that's going to be extraordinarily engaging. So we think it is a paradigm shifting, maybe multi-decade play.
You would have put $500 towards Oculus Rift and a couple of months later this fell for $2 billion. You would have made some money. And in the future, these kind of things will be possible. So that's really great. You know, normal people can invest in entrepreneurs and startups and then actually reap the benefits.